The immediate window is another debugging window in Visual Studio. It can be used at design time or debug time to evaluate expressions, execute statements, print variable names, and so forth. To demonstrate this, I'm using this example application. I'll be working with this book class and some of the methods that are inside this bookstore class. I'll be using this get daily book sales, get top seller, and update book price. I'll start by showing you the immediate window in debug mode. Usually, the immediate window is docked to the bottom of the screen on the right side. If you do not see it, you can add it by going to Debug, Immediate. I'm sitting at a breakpoint, so I can do things like print out the contents of a property, and I can also modify the values. I'll start by printing out the value of the book variable. In the immediate window, you use the question mark as a shortcut for print. And there's my results. It shows the information in a text format. This is not much different than going over to this watch window, adding book, and then clicking on this triangle to expand it. I can see just one of the properties by typing in question mark book title. That prints out the title. I can work with other variables like the birth date variable, and I can see the properties on that variable. And one of my favorite things to do is when I'm debugging a user interface. Remember, we're inside a WPF application. Sometimes I like to query the user interface and find out information about the controls. You might remember there was a button on this window. I'll print out the width of the button. I can also modify the values. If I don't like the title of this book, I can change it while I'm sitting at this breakpoint. This time I'll leave off the question mark because I'm not printing the results. I'm going to press enter. It changes it. And you see in the watch window, it also verifies it's changed here because I see this red text. You might know this, but I'll show it anyway, is you can also change values in the watch window by typing a new value here. I'll change it back to the old title, like that. So what we see now is while we're at a breakpoint, I can modify values and I can print out data. I can also use the immediate window while I am sitting in design mode or while I'm in one of the code editing windows. So I'll stop debugging. The immediate window is down here. If you do not see it, you probably won't see it in the code editor because it's not normally available. Go up to Debug and choose Windows, Immediate. And I'll pin this at the bottom of the window for right now so we can see it. You see all the stuff I was working with a few minutes ago is still here. One of the things you can do in the immediate window is right-click and choose Clear All. Clean that up. Now what I would like to do is test one of my methods. In this bookstore class, there's this method called Get Daily Book Sales. I would like to test the value of what I get back from this method call. So I'll go over to my immediate window, type in question mark, the name of my class, because it's a static class, bookstore, and the name of the method, and then a semicolon on the end of my parentheses. Now remember, I'm not debugging the application. I'm writing code, and I would like to verify what's returned from this method. So go to my immediate window, type this in, press enter, and Visual Studio did some magic here. It went out, called that method, found the value, dumped it into the immediate window. I did this all without having to start a debugging session. It's really nice. It's one of the great tips of using the immediate window. Even better, I can put a breakpoint in there, like this, and then go back and rerun this. Now the way you can rerun this command without typing it in again is to press the up or down arrow in your immediate window. So if I press the up arrow, you'll see I'll step through all the other commands I've given here. And press down the arrow to go back through them until I get to the one that I want, this one here, and then I'll press enter. Did you see what happened? So again, I was in a code editor window. I put a breakpoint in my code. I went to the immediate window and typed in get daily book sales. And because I had a breakpoint in my code, Visual Studio started a debugging session and let me hit my breakpoint. Now it gets even better. I'll move to this get top seller and put a breakpoint here on line 30. And I'll go back to that class and call this get top seller. That's great. I was at one breakpoint that I started from the immediate window. I typed in another method name, put another breakpoint in, and now I'm sitting at a breakpoint for that method. This is basically an impromptu debugging session. I can also work with variables. Let's say that I want to instantiate a book and I need to test this update book price, and I don't want to go through creating a test harness to do this. So I'm going to need a book instance and a decimal value. So I'll go to my immediate window and declare a new variable. I'll assign a property value. Then I'll verify that there's something in that variable. So far it looks good. I just need to add a price. Now, not everything in the immediate window works well. Here's an example where you might see some problems. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to set the book price to 15.00 decimal. It sort of looks like it works until I examine this a little bit closer and I see that it says there's a target parameter count exception. The way I have to get around this is I have to use a parse method. So I'll press up arrow to get back to where I was, and then I'll do decimal. I'll type that in, press enter. Oh, and I forgot the quote marks. That would help if I added these, like that. And now I have my book instance, and I'm ready to call this update book price. There, I'm ready to go. Oh, and I forgot the M on the end of this one here. Let's put that in there. And it worked in this case. It didn't work in the other case. But let's see if the value has changed. So I'll print out my book. It did. Let's recap. The immediate window provides a way to run impromptu arbitrary code while you're editing or while you're debugging your code. You can change variables. You can instantiate variables. You can make method calls. You can put breakpoints in your code and hit those breakpoints. It's a very helpful window.